Rams house. We have got breaking news on today's episode of the Rams Report by Chat Sports. Sean McVay and Les Snead, our head coach and general manager, have been given multi-year extensions by the Los Angeles Rams. And then coming out of the press conference that McVay and Snead had together afterwards, we got even more crazy news at the end of today's show to discuss. But we're going to get started with a breakdown of the McVay and Snead extensions. And before we get into it, I got to hear from y'all. If you're fired up right now, we just re-signed the best head coach in the NFL. I think the best brain trust in the NFL is sticking together. We're going to talk about why I feel that way on today's video. But if you're fired up about that, if you're as pumped up as me right now, like today's video. This is a great day for the Ramily, and we've got to celebrate it. Because look, this is an obvious move in a lot of ways. This is a duo that has had so much success together. Rebuilding, and some people get mad when I say this, what I would call one of the more mediocre franchises in the NFL. And I'm allowed to say that. I grew up a Rams fan in the St. Louis era, in the early 2010s, in the late 2000s. A lot of that wasn't fun. Yeah, there were fine moments, but a lot of that was very mediocre football. Never felt like that those teams were real contenders. Under McVay and Snead, we have become year in, year out contenders. And I felt like Kroenke's statement about why he extended them, why he put pen to paper now. Obviously, they were both due for extensions at the end of next season, but he doesn't wait around. He goes ahead and gets these deals done early because of exactly what he had to say here. He said, as we enter their 10th season together, it is only fitting to reflect on the tremendous success Sean and Les have brought to this franchise and the indelible impact they have made on Los Angeles and the NFL. They continue to embody the standard of this franchise to compete for championships, consistently delivering a product that our fans and city can be proud of. Their collaboration embodies the we, then me ethos we seek in our players, coaches, and staff, and we are thrilled that they will be leading the Los Angeles Rams for years to come. I think the ending of that is really what you got to focus on, that we, then me. That's been the focus for McVay and for Snead. That's the culture that they've built in Los Angeles. I think it's a huge part of why McVay's been able to put together a resume that looks like this, because he has come in and rebuilt a culture that was stagnant in the St. Louis days, in the beginning of the Los Angeles days, into one of the most successful teams in the NFL. A team that is 92-57 under his watch, with 4 NFC West titles in the last 9 seasons, 7 playoff appearances over that stretch, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and 1 ring in 2021. Big time. And Les Snead, thinking about him, obviously he gets a deal in this too. It's not just about Sean McVay. He's had a ton of success on his own and also paired with McVay. You think about the brain trust, he's been the GM all the way back to 2012 when we're still in St. Louis. And you think about the great draft picks he's had over that stretch. Aaron Donald, 2013. In my opinion, the greatest defensive player this game has ever seen. He drafts him 13th overall. I know it's a first-round draft pick, but if you don't want to say that's a steal, you can argue with a wall because that's a steal. 12 other guys went off the board before Aaron Donald. Huge, huge win for us. A lot of people felt like he was too small to succeed at this level. Les Snead identified that he would be a stud. Rob Havenstein. You get a franchise tackle in the second round. That is a first-round draft pick, something that most people have to go address in the first round to get franchise value, to get decade-plus productivity out of their tackles. Rob Havenstein delivered that in the second round and in the late second round, if I may add. Speaking of guys, a little bit later on, Cooper Kupp, 3rd round, 69th overall pick. Nice. In 2017, one of the best receivers to ever do it for this franchise when he was at his height. I think he had the greatest receiver season we have seen in a long time in the NFL in 2021. That guy was unbelievable, just literally unguardable that year. Sad to see him on the Seattle Seahawks, but I could take solace knowing he's going to get another ring pretty soon. Feel pretty good about that one for him. Quentin Lake, I think underappreciated as a draft steal. But 6th-round pick, 211th overall, first time this season as a captain, been a productive starter for this team for a long time, and was Tom Brady's LFG 6th-round pick of the year. Just got named that this morning, actually. Shout out to Captain Q. And obviously, I know you guys are waiting for him. Puka, 5th round, 177th overall. The Brain Trust brings home Puka Nacua. I mean, I can't believe that guy was there for us in the 5th. It speaks for itself. You guys all know how good he is. It's just, you gotta laugh sometimes at how lucky. I don't even think lucky is the right word because again, this is the skill of Les Snead. This is what Sean McVay and Les Snead have done. They've maximized their draft picks. They've found so much success in the mid to late rounds, and it hasn't just been draft, guys. They've also gotten it done via trades. You go back to the FDM picks era and the years that preceded it. Nice trade for Brandon Cooks. He comes over, productive part of this team, huge part of why we reached the Super Bowl. Obviously, not a win that year against the Patriots, but a huge contributor on this team before he ultimately exited it in another trade where I honestly think we could have gotten more value. Traded for Jalen Ramsey in 2019. Huge part of the reason why this defense was as good as it was in 2021, why you do ultimately win the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford trade at the start of that season. The decision ultimately made in collaboration by Sean McVay and by Les Snead that at the end of the day, while Jared Goff had great moments with the Rams, while Jared Goff had been at times productive, we weren't going to get over the hump with Jared Goff. We were going to get over the hump with an elite quarterback like Matthew Stafford. That was a tough call to make. Those two made that decision. They made that trade. What did it result in? A Super Bowl win. And I think one of the most underappreciated, the Kevin Dotson trade. In 2023, you go out and get Kevin Dotson for minimal draft value from the Pittsburgh Steelers, a guy who hadn't really taken off with them, comes over to us and becomes a fantastic starter, truly one of the best guards in the NFL. I know he dealt with some injuries this season in week 16, 17, and 18. You saw what this offense looks like when it doesn't have Kevin Dotson in there, and it is a notable drop-off. All those reasons, everything we just talked about, extending McVay and extending Snead is absolutely obvious and a great decision by Stan Kroenke. But in the press conference that McVay had afterwards, he saw fit to drop a whole ton of news on us, my friends. A lot of news. Went over a bunch of different things after the extensions were announced. I mean, obviously, them getting extended, I think at the end of the day, was something we were all expecting. It was something the media was expecting. So he took the opportunity to address and answer questions on a number of other topics. The first of which would be the offensive coordinator search. And I think at the end of the day, this is a search that has to end in Nate Scheelhaase. But McVay did make some comments about where it might go outside of Scheelhaase. I think Scheelhaase is the obvious candidate. We talked about this yesterday. If you checked out our video where we talked about, obviously, Mike LaFleur exiting the Rams and Nate Scheelhaase being the obvious candidate to replace him. LaFleur goes off to the Arizona Cardinals. But McVay did say there is going to be an extensive search that will include outside candidates as well. It won't just be a stop and go with Nate Scheelhaase. Like, obviously, he's the man. Let's move on. There will be some outside candidates that are brought in for interviews. He didn't name any names here, but this is something that we're going to keep you guys updated on. And very interesting to note that it won't just end with Scheelhaase in their or won't just start and end with Nate Scheelhaase, I should say. But it could very much still end with Nate Scheelhaase at the end of the day, and I think it absolutely needs to. I think he's the obvious option. I think he's the most seamless transition for our offense, someone that Stafford knows well, someone that McVay knows well. Very little change would be needed if you just go with Nate, and I don't think this offense needs a lot of change. It was the best in the NFL last year. I think it could be the best in the NFL again this season. Second thing we need to talk about, some retirement possibilities. Obviously highlighted by our guy Matthew Stafford. And I know nobody wants to talk about this, but we got to. He said Matthew Stafford is taking his time to make a decision. Obviously, the Rams want him back if he wants to come back for year 18, but that's a decision that Stafford has to make in his own time right now. I don't think, to be honest with you guys, that Stafford at this point could tell you, even if he was being 100% honest, even if you had him strapped up to a lie detector that actually worked somehow, that he 100% knew what he wanted to do at this point. I think he's being honest when he says it's going to have to be a conversation with his family, a conversation with his body, listening to how he's feeling over the offseason. But if you want my thoughts on it, if you want my take, and this has been consistent, I think he's coming back next season. I don't think coming off of an MVP caliber year, one that will hopefully be rewarded with the actual MVP award this week at the NFL honor ceremonies, that Matthew Stafford's going to call it quits. I think he's coming back next season. I think he should come back next season. Obviously, I don't want to see the Rams have to begin their quarterback journey right now into a new guy. I think Stafford's got a lot of gas in the tank. I think he's got a lot of great football in front of him. And I think he can come back and win a ring next season with the Los Angeles Rams. And I think these are all things that he knows. I think he sees that opportunity in front of him. I don't think he's ready to walk away just yet. But it's also important to note, it's not just Matthew Stafford making a retirement decision right now, guys. The reason I titled this subsection Retirement Possibilities and not just Stafford retirement is because he also spoke, and he in this instance is Sean McVay, about Rob Havenstein and Tyler Higbee also making similar decisions. The Rams are allowing them to kind of pursue that option right now, think about their bodies, talk with their families about whether or not they want to come back next year. And I think Higbee and Havenstein are both pretty likely to call it at this point. Higbee's dealt with a number of injuries over the last couple of years. It's been a tough few seasons for him. Obviously, the Rams have looked to get younger at the tight end position, which I think has been a smart decision. And then Rob Havenstein had an injury-plagued year this year as well and has posted some things on Instagram over the last couple of days that definitely suggest he's thinking about the end, kind of reflecting on his career, posting photos from the early St. Louis days. Third topic. Davante Adams. Sean McVay spoke very clearly on this matter. Shout out to Adam Grosbard with the LA Times. He gave us this tweet. He was kind of documenting the whole press conference. He said Sean McVay said he has no reason to believe Davante Adams won't be back with the Rams next season. And there was another quote that said absolutely he will be back next year. And look, this is not a surprise. If you've already been subscribed, if you have been watching our videos, this is what I've been telling you guys about Davante Adams the entire time. And especially after the NFL expanded the cap. I put a short out about that just the other day when we got that news. It makes no sense for the Rams to move on from Davante Adams at this point. Why would you want to move on from a receiver that was that productive for you last season, that's still very productive? There's no suggestion that Davante Adams is just going to fall off a cliff next year and not be that guy anymore who can be a phenomenal red zone target. Is he at the height of his career? No, absolutely not. Nobody's going to argue that, but he's still a really good player, and he's still well worth the cap hit because the Rams have plenty of cap space. And speaking of cap space, that brings us to topic number 4. Some extension candidates. Let's go back to Adams' tweet. He followed up with Sean McVay on extension-eligible Rams. Puka Nacua, Byron Young, Kobe Turner, and Steve Avila. Those are all guys we have strong interest in continuing our journey with those guys. So, I think the most notable of those 4 names is pretty obvious here, guys. I think all 4 of those guys are going to likely get it. Well, I will say, I think 3 of the 4 of those guys are likely to get extensions. I think Byron Young may be a trade candidate. That's something we're going to talk about a lot this offseason over the next couple weeks. Is Byron Young somebody that the Rams could potentially look to move off of? But we all know they're not moving off of Puka. We all know the mega deal for Puka Nacua is coming. It is on the horizon because the Rams don't wait around on things like this. They like to get these things knocked out, and I think there is no chance that we get through the summer without Puka Nacua being extended. I'm going to be straight up with you guys. I think that is coming in the next probably 3 months. Literally any day over the next 3 months, we could get the news that Puka Nacua just got a massive, mega deal. And that's a huge part of the reason why you've got to be subscribed. If you're not already subscribed with your notifications on, I I don't know how else to explain it to you. You may miss this news when it happens. You may miss our analysis and our breakdown of this news, and you absolutely don't want to do that. If you made it to this point in the video, clearly you are a huge Rams fan. Clearly you enjoyed spending some time with us today. So make sure you're locked in for not only the Puka Nacua extension, but also all of the other Rams news that we will cover anytime there's Rams news. We're making videos, we're doing shorts, whatever it is to get you guys what you need to know. As always, let's go Rams, and we'll see you in the next one.